Welcome to the Breakdown by Skipani. I am your host, Mr. Foxhill. Sitting across from me is a phenomenal woman who is very good at what she does in the entertainment space. She's done amazing stuff, you know what I mean, from various eventing, I would say endeavors per se, right? But nonetheless, let me rather have her to introduce herself. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and yourself?
I am wonderful, thank you, and thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. To those that don't know you, because I didn't initially mention your name, who are you?
My name is Nandi Dlepu. The streets know me as MamaKaShaka, but that actually is the name of the agency that I run. So I run an experience-led agency, and we create experiences within the arts, culture, and lifestyle space.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Now I saw that you studied at AFTA.
Yes.
Right? How does that now correlate with what you're currently doing, the space that you're in? How does it complement what you do today?
Oh, as an entrepreneur, people are always asking you what your secret sauce is or what your USP is, and I think that my background is a huge plays a huge part in how I show up within the event space. As a filmmaker, it's all about storytelling. So how do you tell a story? And when we curate events, we consider them as a story. Like we consider what is the beginning, middle, and end of this experience. How do we want people, to engage with us? So I think my film background has a lot to do with how I approach experiences. Plus, like I said, I look at experiences as another form of storytelling, and then I think the content that we create from the events is heavily informed by my by my background in film and advertising.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. When did you study film and advertising?
When? Oh, Lord. I went to AFTA in 2001.
2001? I'm just like, 2001 is a long time.
Yeah, I'm a fine wine.
Makes sense. I mean, the knowledge and having attended the listening party over the previous week, but we'll touch base onto that. Now, you graduated in film, you ventured out to doing other stuff. After graduating, actually, if you don't mind me asking, what did you do?
So after graduating, I joined a design and animation studio, Masters and Savant Worldwide, and we created a lot of graphic components for on behalf of other popular agencies at the time. So whether it was for Ogilvy, whether it was for Jupiter Drawing Room at that stage, or FCP or whatever. And also, we worked a lot with, worked quite a bit with channels. So did a lot of the SABC imagery and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I did immediately after college. But actually in parallel, I graduated while I was working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Inspiring.
Yes. So they spent actually the first maybe 6 years of my career within the design and animation space. And I think that, just going back to your earlier question, has also informed a lot about how we show up, not just with our owned brands like Feel Good Series, Pantone Sundays, etc., but what we do for our clients as well. I come from a huge design and visual language background.
Wow. Now, during the course of that, you spent 6 years in advertising and stuff like that, right? Creating animation, working for different companies, different agencies.
Yes.
When did then your love for event come into play? Excuse me.
So in parallel to working at the agency, which was probably, so the design and animation step was probably maybe the 6 years. But then after that, I also worked at other agencies, like content agencies, for probably another 5 to 6 years.
Damn. You invested time, bro.
Yeah.
No, you definitely
but in parallel to that decade, give or take decade journey within TV, advertising, and broadcasting, I, like many other creatives, had passion projects. I had passion projects, and my passion project was the Weekend Social. And the Weekend Social was a brunch cum day party experience that me and 5 other women founded. And we hosted it successfully for 4 years in parallel to me working full-time at agency. And we threw this event almost on a monthly basis. And it started off with like maybe 80 people. Then it was like 200 people. And it was like a couple hundred people. By the time we stopped, I think our finale, we were, I don't know, maybe over 1,000 people, like close to 2,000. But anyway.
What?
Yeah. And as a result of the success of that event, it just planted a seed in me. I was like, oh my gosh, if I can build something, you know, that was this impactful, that had started, you know, making coin.
I see.
It was like, with just like as a part-time occupation, I was really intrigued at the possibility of what would happen if I did this full-time. So I created another event. I created Feel Good series while I was still working at agency. And within year one, that had started, I'd built it and it was commercially sustainable. And then again, that thought of, look, Nandi, you've created this thing, it is commercially sustainable. Imagine if you gave it 40%, if you gave it 60%, if you gave it 80%. And tantalized by that possibility, I resigned to see not just what Feel Good series could do, but I had two other brands. I think I may have had one other by then. And I was on my way to creating Pantone Sundays. And I was like, cool, let me just like take this leap of faith and create this experience-led agency. And it was amazing. Like, it was amazing. Like, from the time we launched, we got 2 clients, retainer clients.
Wow.
So we then became like the experiential agency for Ndalo magazine. So we did all the events for essentially for Elle Deco, Destiny Mag at the time. So we would be those people to do that for them. So that's how that chapter began.
Damn, it's as if you hacked my computer because of how you broke down a lot of questions. But, you know, looking at it from that aspect, you have so much knowledge behind the eventing space. You've done so much for creatives, you know, independent creatives, you know what I mean? But during that process, you spoke about MamaKaShaka. What's MamaKaShaka about? How did it come about exactly? Because I mean, you worked for so many different agencies. Thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I mean?
I worked at a handful of other advertising or production agencies, and MamaKaShaka is my nickname. So MamaKaShaka is just essentially means Shaka Zulu's mother's name, which was Nandi. So that's where that name comes from. And I also, the reason it wasn't vanity that inspired the name of the company. It was more of I wanted to build something, build experiences that were down to earth and relatable. And so I wanted the company to be named after something personal.
I see.
Yeah, so that's actually really where it came from. Like, was wanting to just build something like, you know, down to earth and like just like relatable, and so that's why it was named that as well. That's what inspired it, and and our biggest I spent the first year of the company's like manifestation trying to like knuckle down on our why. Like, why do we exist? And we finally landed on like we exist to empower, to entertain, and to inspire. So and that's essentially what I consider to be like the MamaKaShaka trifecta across everything we do, not just for ourselves but for our clients as well. It has to be work. It has to be work that simultaneously empowers, entertains, and inspires.
I see.
And I mean, it can entertain more than it inspires.
True.
It can, empower more than it entertains.
True.
But for me, it was really important having come from advertising that I do something to repent for my sins.
What does that mean? What is
I
that?
kid. But I really just wanted, it was really important for me for this chapter of life that I do more meaningful work. And this is why, even when we take on a brief, we ask ourselves, how does this inspire? How does this empower? How does this like entertain? Like right now we're doing work for Nike, like we're helping them launch the Move to Zero, which is a global campaign.
Whoa.
And I mean, sure, Nike is an amazing brand, but I mean, this particular campaign fits in so nicely with our why. We are going to create an experience that's going to entertain people. Tick. We're going to create an experience that's going to empower people. And by empowering people, we're going to educate them on how we can like work together to move, you know, to reduce carbon waste and all that kind of stuff, you know, just to be better to the planet. So we get to empower that way. And then I hope we get to inspire. We get to inspire people to make a change. We get to inspire people within our industry that like, you know, you can create entertaining experiences, but that are simultaneously like have a positive impact, that have a positive imprint on the world and on other people. So yeah, so we always look to just that like trifecta, like let's empower, let's inspire, and let's entertain with everything that we do.
I like how you said tick, knowing very well that the Nike thing is a tick. Wow. Wow. Now you spoke about inspiring, empowering, and making an impact, right? And everyone that knows you, they know that you are a woman advocate or advocate for women in the industry.
Yes.
What's your stance for women in the creative space?
Well, I think that it is that equal opportunities need to be afforded to us. And in order to, you know, balance the scales, I think additional consideration needs to be afforded towards us.
You're right.
Currently, my primary team is all women. So never mind, we're actually a woman-led agency. So my account managers are female, my production managers are female, our directors are female. You know, we do have male suppliers, we have male partners, you know. But we definitely, by being someone who advocates for women, I make sure to prioritize the presence and the inclusion of women into our community and industry in really meaningful ways.
Makes sense. Now, being the agency that is moving at the scale that you guys are moving at, right? Surely there has to have been a process of finding the right people to join your team. Because you can't just put anyone. What is the process like of finding the right people and assigning them? I mean, financial manager. I mean, we've heard people knowing, hey, when they know the coins, how much coins are coming in, they know how much coins are going to go out, you know?
I think good people are the cornerstone of any successful business, as far as I'm concerned. And hiring is very hard, it's very challenging. And I have to admit that it takes me long to hire. I mean, our PR lady, I hired a PR lady just like a week ago. And I think she and I had been speaking for 2 years.
Damn.
We've been
That's
like
a long time. That is a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes some seeds just take long to germinate.
True.
You know, sometimes you can meet someone and have a very exciting conversation about the future and the possibilities or potential collaborations or partnerships, and they can only bear fruit, you know, a year, 2 years in this instance.
Or even a decade.
Later. And I mean, we also have to consider that in the last 2 years, you know, like
COVID.
Yeah, COVID happened, so I wasn't confident in us like scaling up at all. But you know, it's business unusual. And yeah, she was like, so it was really a really great moment for us to be able to close a 2-year conversation with an eventual hire. But yeah, so I think also I'm also a person who likes to get to know the people, and I think as a virtue of being like a small agency, you know, we have less than 10 people, like less than 5 permanents, and like the others, you know, we scale depending on what's in the system.
Makes sense.
But I like to have worked with people a couple times before on once-off or on contractual.
Makes sense.
I like to look at it as ukjola.
Except that is relationships that don't last.
Well, we need to date. I mean, employment doesn't last. Like,
True.
you know, you may have great people, but at some point it'll be the time to go, move on to other things, to open. It's not necessarily about moving on to better things. It's about moving on to another chapter of their lives.
Passing on the baton to the next person
Exactly.
who's going to carry on the work.
Exactly.
Makes
So,
sense.
you know, we all make space for each other in some weird way. But, yeah, so I do think hiring takes me probably a little longer than other people.
Now, you touched on something that like kind of like had me thinking, right? You consider partnerships or those, I'd say those joint ventures per se. Let's talk about your relationship with Levi's.
My relationship with what?
Levi's, the whole collaboration campaign y'all did a year ago. How was that? How did that come about? How did that come into place?
I'm trying to remember if I was approached directly by Levi's or their agency, but either way, I think that particular campaign was around change makers. You know, people who were doing meaningful things within their space, like positive impact narratives, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And it was myself and Zuleika.
Okay.
And you know, if you remember Zuleika, Zuleika is that fierce brown girl that refused to have her hair cut.
I remember.
And she's become a huge you know, like advocate. And I think, yeah, she's huge across all things.
An icon throughout Africa because
she's
changed.
phenomenal.
She made an impact because I mean at that time it was like people felt the need, or let me rather say students were like, okay, when they tell you cut your hair, you cut it, you know what I mean? Because it's like the rules. You don't want to lose the position you're in. They could tell you, look, tomorrow you're gonna suspend you or whatever, and that could badly, you know what I mean, reflect towards your reputation.
I remember many moons ago when I was in high school, something similar. I mean, we're digressing here a bit, but like this is a great story. When I was in high school, I had dreadlocks, and my teacher at the time, not my teacher, but the school, basically ordered that all kids with dreadlocks cut their dreads. And I refused to cut my hair. And I remember my mom going to school, and my mom was on some, and I don't know, I think he said this, it was like, yes, the school doesn't take too kindly to these types of hairstyles. And my mom was like, well, all the hairstyles that you've described are Afrocentric hairstyles. So you're telling me that the school has a thing against, like Africans, essentially. And I mean, I remember just sitting next to her, just wearing my uniform, you know, and I had my dreadlocks like swept back, because that was the thing. As long as they were neat, they weren't allowed to stand up, whatever. So they were long enough, mine, to like lie down. And I was just like trying to stop myself from laughing, because my mom just has a way with words. And I mean, she just like put him in a corner. At the end, all I remember is that by the end of the thing, I was allowed to keep my hair. My mom was, but unfortunately, my friends had already cut their dreads, had already combed out, their locks. But to have been part of a campaign of change makers that featured Zuleika, knowing my personal, narrative as far as her moment was concerned, was like deeply inspiring. Like, it was deeply inspiring. I rate her. I stand her.
I understand your full stand.
Yeah, full on stand for her. But yeah, the Levi's campaign was just about that. It was about positive change makers. And and I think that those are the type of influencer work that I like to do and gravitate towards a lot more. I love what they were trying to achieve with that campaign, and it was a global campaign. So yeah.
So you're global. You're global.
Siyazama.
Now, talking about change making, let's talk about Women in Bloom. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Women in Bloom event.
Yes.
What led to that?
So Women in Bloom events, they actually came about from a personal need. Just before I left agency, I wanted to, I tried to find spaces and platforms that were around like motivating you to start your own business, teaching you, inspiring you, just any kind of platform. And I found really amazing ones, like what's this, Lioness of Africa, She Leads. In the States, there was The Wing. There was a whole there was Lean In. There was a whole bunch of platforms that were all about empowering, and inspiring the next wave of female entrepreneurs. The only glitch for me was that with every platform I found back then, was that it focused a lot on corporate women. So women in corporate in structures,
CEOs and stuff.
But I mean, no, you can have a CEO in a creative business. True. It's just that our needs are very different. So even how, when I was looking at how do I fund for my business, how I fund for my business isn't necessarily the same way, a corporate would fund its business. A corporate has a far better chance of going to the bank and getting a business loan than the average creative business, at least back then. So that's how Bloom started. It started around trying to get together women who I knew were having similar challenges and similar aspirations, or wanting to leave, their respective businesses to start creative, ventures of their own. Amazing. And so we got together, and what started as a conversation amongst peers then became a space where we would invite women that we looked up to, that we thought were leading the way in that regard, and inviting them into our space in order to inspire and empower us. And so those became the Women in Bloom events. So the women that we were interviewing, or who were leading us in conversation, were what we dubbed Women in Bloom, because these were women who are undeniably blossoming in their respective things, and we're hoping be inspired by how they did things.
Who have you guys featured?
Oh, lots. So we have featured on the art side, we've featured Lady Scully, Laura Vinvogel. We featured Marissa Bande, also artist. We've also featured Elaine, the R&B singer.
Can I leave? Does she know how big she is? No.
We have we've featured Elaine. We have.
How did that come about? Before you continue mentioning the other list, before the list goes on, how did that go on about? Right now she's a superstar.
She's a superstar. She
was
a woman in bloom.
In the making.
Yeah, she's a woman in bloom. She's she's a complete superstar. So as part of our Women in Bloom event, we were approached by Nike to curate a Music in Bloom event, if you will. So they wanted us to curate, but they were like, no, we wanted to be inspired by a woman in bloom, but we were very interested in doing a Music in Bloom thing in partnership with you guys. And at the time, Elaine was just on the cusp, the one was just the one was just blowing up everywhere at this point. And she was also a Nike ambassador.
Can I cry?
And so...
Can I cry?
Yeah, so we conceptualized this Music in Bloom panel discussion conversation, which featured Elaine as the key panelist, but that also featured other amazing women within the music space. So women like Helen Harimbi, who is a really amazing music journalist, a huge advocate within that space herself. We also featured Ange Wakely, who actually works at Levi's creative space in Parktown. She heads up that space, but she's also not only just a music curator and DJ, but she's also an artist manager. And we had this amazing conversation about how women within the music space can thrive. An honest conversation about their respective challenges, but moreover how they can overcome those challenges. But so we had Elaine, and I'm trying to figure out.
I want to cry, man. I don't think you understand.
We've also had Shekinah on there. We've also had Lulama Wolf also an artist. We've also had some international features, particularly during COVID, where we would have Instagram Lives. We've had Tamu McPherson. She lives in Milan, and she is, she's done a bunch of work for Vogue. We've also featured, geez, man, some like international influencers, because for us, lifestyle influencers sit within the creative professional space, and a whole bunch of other people, like different architects, authors. We've just tried to also expand to expand beyond the knee-jerk reaction of when we say creative women, people limit us to music, fashion, and TV. You know, creative women also are women in publishing. There are also women in tech. There are also women in architecture and so on. So we've tried to plug in different types of disciplines into what we all, you know, what we should all know, like encapsulates, you know, creativity. But cool. Well,
you spoke about collaborations or partnerships, right? You partnered with like Levi's, and right now you're partnering with Nike on your biggest event, right? Which collaboration do you most adore? What's adore, man?
I think at every single point of collaboration, I always go, this is my favorite one. And then the next one happens, and I'm like, this is my favorite one. But I think that's a testament to just actively always trying to be present.
True.
And so right now, I would say that, you know, what the team is doing in the lead up to the Move to Zero campaign or activation at Feel Good Series is what I'm super, super, super excited about. But I'll tell you for free, last week I was really excited about, last week or 2 weeks ago, about the work that we were doing for Archive for MX Day. So we did MX Day.
Shoot, in Cape Town.
Yeah, we did one.
Amazing.
We did one in Cape Town. We did one in Joburg.
Amazing.
But like literally a couple months before that, I was super excited about the event experiences we were doing, or event experience rather, that we conceptualized and produced for Rupert and Rothschild. And before that, I was Rupert and Rothschild. It's a really big, popular wine brand.
Oh, I thought
in the country.
I thought you were talking about Johann Rupert's child. I'm like, okay,
well,
we gotta talk after this.
Yeah, well, Rupert and Rothschild does belong to Johann Rupert. Yeah,
and probably.
But like, at every single point where we're working on something, we're fully immersed, we're fully present. So at that moment, that is the thing that we're most excited about. So next week, I could be doing something with God knows who. I'm going to be really excited about that.
Especially.
Yeah, super invested.
I get what you mean. Now, Feel Good Series. You keep on talking about Feel Good Series throughout the course of the interview.
Yeah.
What is that? How did that baby come to life? Like, it's amazing because people confuse it for Feel Good live sessions.
Yes.
So please just give us the distinguishment. I don't know if that's the right word, but the difference
I can't
amongst
speak too
the
much
two,
about Feel Good Live Sessions. I think that its founder and its originator can do it more justice than I ever could. I can only just speak about Feel Good Series. So Feel Good Series, we founded almost 5 years ago.
Okay.
And its reason for existing is so that we can create a platform for specifically emerging musical talent. So we recognize that we have some amazing favorites, but our whole thing was that in order to open up the industry, it's important for us to, you know, to single out the up and comings.
I see.
And so as much as we love the big acts, we don't, that's not, Feel Good Series is not a home for the established star. It's home for the rising star. And I think that's a particularly unique thing about us. So we're 5 years in, but if you consider that 4 years ago, Langa Mavuso featured on our stage, Something Soweto, Psyche. These are all people now who are household names who actually performed the Feel Good Series, you know, anything between 3 to 5 years ago. So that's our like USP or point of differentiation, not just, but I think just in general is the fact that we are curatorial whole thing is about the rising star. It's about identifying the next big thing as far as we're concerned. And right now, like we've had Marcus Harvey. Marcus Harvey performed on Feel Good series, what, a year and a half to 2 years ago?
Oh my gosh.
We have Mani Badu. Mani performed last year. Joda Khosi performed last year. We now have Ricky Tyler and a whole bunch of really exciting, super talented like stars on the rise that we're gonna put on this year. Just like thinking about some of these
And
things,
I like how the
I'm
emphasis
excited.
on super talented, because it shows that you are, you know what I mean, you're so invested into the culture, you're invested into the future and the vision. You know
We're
what I mean?
very invested in the culture. We're
And
very invested in the
you know what
future
I
of the
mean?
culture.
And I
Very
mean,
invested.
it's like you guys are also tapping into the alternative space as well. You know, we can say R&B and alternative is the same thing,
Yeah,
but it's
indie,
different.
future beats, that space. I think we, I think, when people have these arguments about SA hip hop is dead and so on, we're a platform that prioritizes hip hop and like surrounding sounds. So future beats, indie, alternative, R&B, soul.
Okay.
We're a platform that prioritizes those. There'll always be space for those brands, and we don't necessarily exclude, amapiano and house stars in the rise. But let's be honest, there's lots more opportunity.
True.
For those artists. I think because it's a uniquely South African sound, as an argument, I think But I think hip hop being a global phenomena, is something that sometimes people can maybe feel like they're tired of, or maybe don't feel like it's unique. Whatever your reason may be, we are a platform that has decided to prioritize artists within that space.
Now, how would you then describe your relationship with that music scene?
I mean, I grew up as a hip hop head.
Okay.
I mean, when I say hip hop head, I mean I was listening to Raz Kaz, Soul and Ice, Wu-Tang Clan, 36 Chambers.
See, from Wu-Tang Clan, I'm knowledgeable, but before then, I'm a blank person.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Is it? No.
I see, but I will see.
I had a particular affinity for what they call conscious rap. So
I see.
everything that came out of Raucous was like a thing for me.
Okay.
So my relationship within the hip hop community is I love hip hop. I love hip hop. I grew up in hip hop. I'm socially informed by hip hop. It's.
So you began at the times of the cassettes, when you had to rewind and with the pencil. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. These days, at least streaming is like, you know what I mean?
It's easier now, thank God.
Now, COVID hit 2 years ago. You mentioned how it affected your agency.
Yeah.
How did it affect the production of the Feel Good series?
Yeah, I mean, like any other experience, it came to a dead stop. But what was interesting was how, because you still want to be present, was the fact that you challenged yourself on what is this new manifestation now?
Sure.
And coincidentally, actually, that's how the listening party came about. The listening party was initially conceptualized as a content series.
Okay.
So actually, we would have Zoom interviews with the artists, and we'd actually host the listening parties, and then would package them as episodes that lived on our IG channel. On our IG page. So that's how the listening party started. And now, because it's business unusual, people can gather to a degree. We then took them into the real life space, and now we have them as a intimate gathering or interview.
Now, I mean, look, these events obviously are not going to fund themselves, right? You're getting sponsors.
Yes.
What's the process with gathering those sponsors? And I'm going to touch on the partner that was at the listening session, or that sponsored initially the listening session. But overall, let's talk about the sponsors.
Okay, so I am the worst person for people to ask. So how do you get sponsorship? Because I've always, I started off with the if you build it, they will come mentality. Because if you recall, I started hosting events in parallel to me working at agency, so I could, for the most part, fund some of my events. I invested into Feel Good series until it got to a point where it was sustainable. But you know, so I had some seed money, if you will, to put into some of my properties. And what happened was that for the most part, we had sponsors reaching out to us.
Word?
Yeah, I didn't. So we had sponsors come and say, yo, I'm really interested in being a part of this thing that you've created, blah, blah, blah. So we're very fortunate in that sense. And because now you have a foot in the door, so if you have a conversation or you've been with someone from, be it Diageo or Pernod or AB InBev or whatever, it's so much easier when you have a foot in the door to be like, you know what, just put me in contact with that other person, that brand manager there. And it's easier to be introduced. But my first foot in the door was really, if you build it, they will come. Like really, we built it and they came.
And they came. I mean, if you think about it, it's like you are so knowledgeable around every single thing. I mean, production, advertisement. Yo, cause yeah, I can we swap heads for a moment? Exchange the knowledge. But it's inspiring how you didn't let something like COVID-19 get in the way of you establishing something as good as this, because
we just thought to evolve it. We're like, how can this thing, because you know, and me and friends of mine used to debate this a lot during those first couple months of lockdown, particularly around our businesses. I have a few friends who are entrepreneurs themselves, and I was like, you know what, for me, because they were like, will Feel Good come back? Will these things come back? And I'm like, of course they'll come back. The only thing that COVID has done has called into question the how. How do we, you know, manifest? How do we show up? It hasn't called into, it hasn't undermined why we exist. Feel Good series exists to create platform for emerging musical talent. That can be done in other ways. That can be done through interviews, that we could go into a publishing space. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to show up as a party. Bloom exists, you know, also to meaningfully like empower and inspire creative women. That doesn't have to be an event. That could be a book. That could be a podcast. That could be a whatever. So, you know, what COVID do on the one hand is affirm the existence of these properties, because the why, the reason they existed was not questionable for me at all during that 18 months of like feeling caged. The only thing that I had to do as a creative is take on the challenge of how are we now going to do it? We're not allowed to do it this way. What is the other way that we can do this?
Solution to the problem. Now, solution ended up being a DIY distribution company known as Tunecore. Now, them establishing themselves here happened to also being them partnering with you guys. How did you actually collaborate? How did that pinch on to Feel Good series?
Again, I think I was working with this gentleman, Duncan. We were working together in Cape Town on another job, and I don't know how it came about, but I think I was telling him about the listening party, blah, 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 and he mentioned how he knew Jade at Tunecore and how these things like felt to him like could be complementary, could help each other. I mean, when he took me through who Tunecore is, what they're about, what they've done to date, I was like, 100%. We sit here as Feel Good series, you know, looking for partners who are going to help amplify and complement our why, our reason for being. And here was Tunecore, you know, like the world's largest DIY, you know, like a platform, a distributor for independent artists. So this is like a brand that has built itself on empowering, you know, the independent artists. It just made sense for us to like come together, and they came on board to help power the listening party, and match made it happen.
Now, what is their contribution to the Feel Good series?
So they are specifically our partner on the listening party. So the listening party is something that we host in the lead up to all of our Feel Good series events. And it's all about, because we're a platform about emerging artists, there's a job to be done around telling the story of these relatively, they sit between being relatively unknown to like, they're also just on that cusp. Like, I mean, I think like Ricky Tyler is like on the cusp. Like,
True.
I think he's about to
fly over.
He's about to tip over. So
Indeed.
we have artists that sit anywhere between like relatively unknown to where an artist like Ricky Tyler is. But there's still a job to be done around introducing them, right? So to introducing them and saying who they are, talking about their music, talking about the inspiration, you know, and like all those like quirky, interesting stories around a song that you wouldn't necessarily know about if you're not in the know. And yeah, so they decided to partner and support that initiative of ours. And I suppose in return, like any other good partner, our whole thing is about making as much noise as we can for them as well, because what they offer is an amazing service.
Now, what can we expect? I mean, after, you know, the whole collaboration and the events and stuff like that have happened pre-hand especially, hence the amazing and beautiful listening session. Thank you for the invitation, by the way.
Absolute pleasure.
Now, what can we expect from the Feel Good series going forward in the next coming months or, you know, next coming year?
Okay, cool. In the next couple of months, so our event calendar is essentially till September.
Okay.
You can expect a monthly listening party.
Okay.
You can expect our
Amazing.
our performance parties also monthly, every last Saturday of the month.
Okay.
You can count on us being there.
Amazing.
We plan to finally pop up in Durban.
Fire.
Finally, we're gonna do something. We have something special for Durban. We plan to pop up again in Cape Town. We've been to Cape Town a couple times before.
Okay.
So we look forward to getting back to our Cape Town community. But really, I think the thing to continuously watch out for is the artists that we've put on. Like, I always urge people, once you're introduced to a Feel Good series artist, please go follow them. Like, we're gonna have the same way now. People are like, what do you mean you had Langa Mavuso on 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago? Like, the beginning of his career. And look at him now. Like, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're gonna be saying the same thing about Mani Badu. You're gonna be saying the same thing about
Tyler.
Marcus Harvey. You're gonna say the same thing about Ricky Tyler, like you just said. So I think, get on them now. The fact that we had Elaine on Bloom, look at, like, trust our curation.
Gone.
In short, just trust our curation.
Like, she's gone right now.
Oh no, she's long gone.
She ain't coming back. You know, now, aspiring event creators, what advice would you give to them?
I would say that when you create an experience, it's worked for us, is to always consider why it exists. If anything that the world or COVID has taught us is how you exist can always be brought into question. But what would help you stand the test of time and, like, you know, and survive and overcome these challenges is having a very clear, like, vision and picture of why am I here, you know, what am I here to achieve, not how am I meant to achieve it, because that can always change. Budgets can change how you show up quickly. Whether you have less money or more money, it can change everything. And I think a second thing would be just saying, if you want to, not just in events, but if you want to, like, start your own thing, I think you need to have a very good relationship with failure. Because I haven't consistently won. I've consistently lost.
I mean, seems like you've been consistently bagging the wins, the W's.
It's only because people only ever see the wins, but I've got grit. I'm very much the dust myself off and try again type of personality.
Respect.
If I believe in something, I don't give up. I just don't. It's not no.
It's inspiring.
I don't.
It's inspiring. I mean, other people, I feel like the next kid who's going to be watching this will be able to learn essentially from your story. What event, throughout all events, including your music festival, what event did you enjoy putting together overall?
That's not fair.
The one you hold to your heart till today.
I will say, oh my God, this is not fair. Umi. Yeah.
What's that about?
Umi is our festival proposition by Feel Good Series. We had our last one just now, end of February, and it featured Muzi. And it was Muzi's first performance in like 2 or 3 years.
What? You guys are breaking records.
It featured Muzi. It featured
records.
Una Rams. It featured Filala. It featured Wandile Mbambeni. It featured a whole bunch of like other artists, and I think it was just really special to see our own our own version of like an indie festival. You know, like these are amazing, like alternative or indie or soul artists, if you will. And I really, really enjoy it because it's it's
I know it's a hard question.
And I also think it's because we didn't have it last year because of COVID. So out of all our events, it was the one we had the longest lapse on.
Oh, I see. And also planning strategy around.
Yeah. So I think I'd missed it so much.
And look at the beauty you've created after.
Completely. It was, oh God. It was so beautiful. It's a really special one for me, but we like the other kids too, ne? So
true. Now
it's the favorite, but we like the other kids.
The other kids also matter. Other babies matter.
Yeah, but like Feel Good Series and Pant on Sundays are monthly occurrences. So when Umi happens, it's like once in a lifetime. It feels once in a lifetime, like a Halley's Comet. Like that's what it feels like. Yeah.
Amazing. It's inspiring. Now, when it's all, I would say, when it's time to venture off to other things, or when you retire, what would you like the industry or the kids of today to remember you by, or the next generation actually? What would you like to be remembered by, or for?
You're killing me with this question.
There has to be something.
I have to be honest with you. The question around legacy has evolved a lot since COVID. I think I can admit that maybe there was a time in building the stuff where there was a level of ego or vanity in terms of, you know, the legacy story. But right now, it's become a lot more around. I don't think it's important that people remember me as much as they remember the platforms.
I see.
I hope that they will all exist in some form in 5 and 10 years' time, and that they're impactful in the ways that I would like them to be. And so for me, it's not about how I as Nandi Dlepu am remembered, but it's about, I would love to be in a room and someone goes, oh man, I love that platform Feel Good Series, like 5 years from now. It's not about me. I would love to hear that. I'd love to hear someone say, oh my God, Pants on Sundays, like put me on to these streetwear labels or these couture labels or whatever, because that's our fashion property. Or Bloom, I went to a Bloom and I heard X and Y speak and I was inspired to start, you know, my business. That's what I want to hear. I'm more focused on the legacy
than anything
of those particular brands than I would say on a direct personal legacy.
Because I mean, you're working towards something, like every single establishment is always, when you establish something, must always understand that you're working towards something that's bigger than you. And
100%.
the next generation can cope up, you know, it's like you passing on the baton, continue it, and they're going to do something way bigger than what, you know what I mean?
If someone would have something like really nice to say about me, that would be fine.
But most importantly, the platforms.
But what's important to me is the platform, because I'm not entirely sure that I will be, I may have sold Feel Good Series, you know, or maybe I'm not as hands-on. Because obviously Feel Good Series is also a platform for emerging. I was speaking to someone about it earlier, about how, you know, I don't want when people think of feel good series, they see me. That you may think of me, I guess,
I get what you
but
mean.
you mustn't see me like. This is you must see yourself in those things, and I think that's what's important about all like feel good series, Pantone Sundays and Bloom, is to build them and to continue to nurture them in a way that people see themselves in them, because they are service platforms. They're there to service a community need.
It's rendering a service that not many are doing per se, in particular filling in a gap in society that is not fully fulfilled by many ventures or rather
again, humbly speaking, I think there was definitely a time where there were very few of us in the emerging live performance artist space. I think there are a number of us now. I think it all boils down to consistency, curation, and quality of experience. In the same way, 5 years ago, I think we were one of, if not the only, creative women's platform in Johannesburg. But since then, there's a couple that I know of, couple that I'm fond of, a couple that I attend as well.
Put them on.
But for instance, Agenda Women is an amazing one. I mean, at some point we had a great initiative called Ladies Wine Design. What is Wine and Design? We had Ladies Drink Control. We've had from the Feel Good series side, I think really wonderful properties have come in, like Until's Good Morning. We've had properties like Breakfast at Cujo's, just even in the party space. So a lot of things have come up in the festival space, in the eventing space. And I think all it does is like taken something that maybe was a flat color and given it dimension and different hues and different texture. I think this is definitely one of the few instances where it is the more the merrier.
True. And I mean, your legacy is really, already looking at the work you've done, the amazing work you've done, it's inspiring. The person you've become through the courses of the challenges, through the establishment, through the failures and through the successes. You know what I mean? You're doing so much for yourself, and may you please carry on doing what you're doing for the youth. Continue embracing the culture as you are, because it's not easy. It's not easy, it's not easy finding the right people. It's not easy finding these people. Like I'm talking about, when I say these people, I'm talking about the artists alone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because as much as they can say good work finds you, you also need to go look for it. You need to seek for it. You know what I mean? So please continue putting on the amount of creatives you've been putting on. We'd love to see many more establishments or creations that you're gonna be putting up throughout the course of the coming years, and definitely cannot wait to be part of those establishments. That's if let me not jump the gun. Let me not jump the gun. But in closing, where can people find you and your work?
Instagram, you can find us at MamaKaShaka. And you can also find us on our website, www.mamakashaka.co.za. And between the two platforms, you can expect to stay updated on our goings on.
Cannot wait. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining us today.
An absolute pleasure.
I hope that you guys at home, you're able to learn from her story. Thank you guys so much for joining the breakdown. I am your host, Mr. Foxtail, and sitting across from me is the wonderful, beautiful Nandi Dlepu. I'm saying it right? Thank you guys so much. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Till next time, guys. Thank you.